There are times in our life where we experience a little something and we go, oh, I was missing that and I didn't even realize it. I should have that in my life more often. I didn't know it could make such a difference in how I feel and what feels meaningful. And while we shouldn't be restlessly seeking after these things, they can actually be a way of accepting the reality that we're in, of appreciating the present moment and everything that goes with it. And so today I just want to share with you some things that could be like that for you, things that have helped me or other people. And my hope is that you can just soak it in. One of the first things that I want to share is just about being gentle with yourself, realizing that things don't have to be as complicated as you might make them, giving mercy to yourself. Sometimes we put so much weight on these accomplishments. Even the idea of seeking out happiness can be something that we torture ourselves with. What we want is to be simple before God and find meaning with Him. And this is not something that I've figured out how to do. That's part of the point. All of us are so poor and humble before God. We receive everything from Him. And so it's important that we take responsibility, but He's the one that gives us the grace for that. And He knows that it's a journey. He knows that we're poor. So when we give Him our goodwill, He comes and makes up the difference. And part of accepting whatever He gives us is accepting the journey. We actually are called to perfection as much as people may say otherwise. And that could be so detrimental to us to aspire to if it weren't for the fact that God has created us to be on a transformative journey. And it's okay that it is a journey. It's okay that we're little. And we're actually meant to always be little, even when we are perfect. It's part of actually being all that we're meant to be with God. When I was making this video, so many things went wrong, thing after thing, and a lot of it was just beyond me. And a lot of times there are things in our life that are either beyond our control completely, or that are sort of supposed to be within our control, but we don't live up to it and can't figure it out. And it's very normal that would be the case. And so while we want to strive to be magnanimous and to be all that we can be, honestly, part of getting there is accepting our limitations and allowing ourselves to just be, because that's a lot more central to finding meaning than other things, such as accomplishments. And this is the way that God treats us. He loves us for our own sake and not for what we do. And so whenever we get caught up in turmoil over all the things that are going wrong, over all of our weakness, it's a good place to return to Him and accept His gaze at us. He created us just to love us and be with us. And we return our love for Him in a greater way when we just let Him do that, when we let Him gaze and we gaze back. It's important to be aware of our inadequacies, of our poverty, of our limitations, of the ways that we totally depend on God. So accepting that reality is a very important starting point. And from there, when we see that need that we have, one of the best places to go is straight to His heart. Just be with Him every day. Sometimes the saints called this mental prayer. And if you learn how to do mental prayer, and just start simple and do it every day, then this intimacy with God can come forth from that. And when you feel so inadequate, go to the sacraments. In Mass, we offer to God the fruits of our labor. It's represented in bringing up bread and wine, but it's everything that we have, and it's such an insufficient gift. And we know that, and He knows that, but when we bring it to Him, He blesses it. And when He blesses it, He gives it back to us in a transformed way. He gives us everything that we need. He takes what was wine and bread and gives us a different kind of bread, His own body, His own self. And when we eat, we never have to be hungry again. And one day we never will be hungry again. And never be thirsty again. And so, instead of putting everything on ourselves, we go to Him, we offer Him everything. He blesses it, and He gives it back to us. And then we're all right. Everything is taken care of. And in this life, things won't all be fulfilled yet. But He's still taking care of everything even now. And all of the sacraments are like this. We give God what we have, and He gives us back so much more. And that's why things are all right with us. That's why we can say that things are well with our soul. In reconciliation, we give Him our sorrow for having hurt Him and hurt the people that He loves. And He blesses that sorrow and gives back to us more than we could have ever expected. He doesn't just take away our debt, which in itself is astounding, but on top of that, He makes us children of God. He makes us like part of His own home, part of His own family. Where else do you ever see that? He makes us even part of His own nature, partakers in it. So give Him everything of the little that you have, and be assured and confident that He will bless it. This is what allows you to be part of something bigger than yourself, something that's good for everyone and for you. It's so good to reflect on the journey. If you've ever been just driving in a car and you suddenly feel so soothed, perhaps that's part of why. Because you realize that you're in a story and that it is beautiful. And that it doesn't have to look exactly a certain way for it to be beautiful and meaningful. And as you have this mode of being authentic with God, of accepting His mercy and giving it to yourself, then this overflows into doing the same for others. First you receive His love and you return it to Him, and then what flows out of that is your love for other people. When you are confident in your identity as a child of God, when you're living in the Father's blessing, you're a friend of Christ, you're His brother or His sister, and you live in your spiritual maternity, eternity, and you have the Holy Spirit inside of you, animating you. When you live this authentic reality with Him, from that place, it can flow out onto others. And you realize that beyond all of your hurt, you actually just want to honor others, to honor their dignity and respect them. And so when you are confident in your identity, you can go before others and say where you've done wrong and admit that you've harmed them, that you've harmed the body of Christ, you've harmed the family of God and the creatures of God. And you can go and ask forgiveness. And it doesn't take away from your identity. It doesn't destroy you to admit your limitations before another person. Even grave ways that you've hurt them. It doesn't harm your identity because your identity rests in more than that. And so you can go and ask forgiveness. And when someone has harmed you, you offer them forgiveness. And you can be reconciled. And you can discern with God what place that person that hurt you has in your life. Whether it's safe to have a relationship with them again. But either way, you continue to love them and look with them with eyes of mercy. And a lot of times when you extend that mercy, you gain a new friend, or you gain a friend that's more authentic than they were before. So that's another thing I would say, is to be confident enough in God to be honest about the ways that you harm others, to honor their dignity by admitting it. And then when you're the one who's been harmed, to imitate the Father in his mercy and offer it to others. And even just to be hospitable to the people around you, people who are looking for a home, and you can be that little place of rest and family for them. Oftentimes, things that are meaningful to us are those things shared between cultures and communities and people, the things passed down to us. It's often little things like food and music. Music especially has a way of enlivening our soul, and it makes a big difference when you play it yourself. So one idea is to start with something small and easy if you don't already play an instrument. And if you do, then take the time to really enter into it. Not ever making something an idol, but just thanking God for the gift that it is and the ways that it does enliven your soul. But if you don't already play an instrument, you can start with something small, something that excites you. For me recently, I bought an Irish whistle, and I love to be connected in some small way with my ancestors and play music that, regardless of where I'm from or who my people are, I just feel enlivened being able to play and being able to play anything, all sorts of things. And there's a solitude that comes with making beauty and just enjoying it, being out there yourself. And it's not entirely something easy to explain, but I'm sure that some of you have experienced it and hopefully can experience more of it. Another thing that's meaningful about sharing in community and hospitality is to just make food. Even if it's just for yourself sometimes, and to actually enjoy comfort food, not as something to idolize or fall into out of any kind of necessity, but just a genuine recognition of those things that make you feel more like a person when you eat them. So to allow yourself to actually enjoy them and pay attention to them. Always valuing more than that what they point to. The home that we have in heaven. The food that we have in the Eucharist. Something that is often enlivening is to just cook with your friends and make things that are very enjoyable to cook. I especially love things that are very hands-on. And then you just eat together. And there's such a joy of being able to give other people food. And it can be even more of a joy when they join you in making it. And it's not something you have to know how to do perfectly. You can make mistakes. And it's just fun. So just let yourself enter into that process and eat well. Learning and sharing things that have been passed down can be such a gift, and having that new ability, it's like a little repertoire that's exciting and that you can work with and that you can love people with when you know how to make things and do things of all sorts, but especially something that can be delightful is when it's food, and there's so many ways to love people with food. And in the interest of sharing things, I'll tell you a little recipes that I've been able to make, even when I don't have a lot of ingredients or a lot of materials. Something I can make as long as I have a stove and a few utensils and a few ingredients. It can be more fun to cook intuitively whenever it's possible. So for the rice, you heat up some oil, like olive oil, on a skillet, and once it's pretty hot, you pour in however much rice you want, but keep in mind that it will get a lot bigger. And you need a skillet that has high enough sides for it to expand quite a bit. Once your oil is heated, you toast the rice until it's golden brown. And then you pour seasonings like paprika, chili powder, other things. You could add garlic if you want. And then you put bouillon, like beef or chicken, and bouillon over it. And alternatively, you could use chicken broth or vegetable broth, beef broth. But then that works a little bit different. So I'll just explain when you put the bouillon powder on with the seasonings and you stir it around. And you can also add in, if you have like diced onions, jalapenos, some tomatoes. I didn't have these things. I only just had a few ingredients. So I made mine without, and I put some hot sauce I had in instead. But it's awesome when you have little diced vegetables in there. And then you stir that around to cook them a little bit, but not too much. And then you can pour water in to cover it. And you want the water to come to a boil. And if you didn't use bouillon, then you could use broth here instead. And the broth will help infuse it with flavor instead. So you cover it, you wait for it to boil, and then once it's boiling, you turn down the heat and you let it just cook on a lower temperature for a while until most of the liquid has evaporated, and you just have this like layer of rice. And you want to be careful not to stir it during that time. You can stir it earlier when you first put in the water, but you don't want to stir it when it's in that process of just evaporating, because that will make the rice mushy. So once it's evaporated, you can let it cool, and you want it to cool a fair amount. It'll still be hot to eat, but cool a fair amount so that it won't just mush together when you move it. And it can be so satisfying to scrape it and make it fluffy for the first time. And then the other thing is arepas. There could probably be a better way to make these, I don't know. They tend to come out a little different for me every time. But you take pre-cooked cornmeal and put some in a bowl, put a bit of water, stir it with a fork, get it all nice together, and then get it to where it can be, and also salt, put salt in there. Get it to where it can be dough that isn't too sticky to stick on your hand too much. You want to be able to form it, but you also want it to still be slightly wet. And then you can form that in the shape of a little ball, press it down so it kind of looks like a little patty, and then put it in some hot oil, and then just flip it. These usually take a while to fry up. And then when they're done, you can cut them in half and put butter or whatever toppings you'd like. And then for the beans, I just mashed up some beans, and they added a very nice complement to everything else. So that's something simple that you can cook with only a few ingredients. After sharing in community, it can be very good to go off by yourself and be with God. Isolation is negative, but solitude is positive. It's something that you're working towards and orienting yourself towards in order to find something that you can't find elsewhere. Something that can be very enlivening is to go out in nature, whether it's by yourself or with people, to make it an adventure, and also to make it part of the rhythm of your life. Don't settle for always being inside, always being busy. It can be small things if you don't have a lot of time. Just going outside and realizing that you actually need sun, you need fresh air. Even if you are bedridden, open a window, have your family bring your bed outside if at all possible. And if not, that's a big sacrifice, but find beauty somewhere, find something alive. Nature is often one of the best things, one of the best medicines. Times we can feel starved of beauty. So we might say, how can I use this to help me when I can't find it? Sometimes when that's the case, instead of looking at the big picture, at a big landscape, you can be like a child and look at something small and realize how delightful it actually is, how intricate, how complex. These are things that we might miss if we weren't compelled to look for the small things. Even the intricacies of a dead leaf can surpass a lot of the things that we engage with in daily life. I remember being sent outside one time at my high school to look for beauty, and all I could see was all of these ugly buildings, very poorly made. Everything was so utilitarian, and even the lawn really wasn't that beautiful. And then I noticed a patch of earth where the lawn didn't finish, which to anyone else might look like an imperfection. And then there was a drip from the gutter, and in that place was growing all of this beautiful moss. And when you got close, you could see the little stems with the little round red things. I don't know what they're called. It almost looks like a strange little flower growing out of the moss. You can see it on a lot of moss. You might never know it was there. if you didn't look very close. And when you start noticing these things, you see how different everything is. There's so many kinds of moss and lichen, and something like a rusting pipe can be the reason there's a whole little oasis somewhere. So it can be very good to think like a child and just look at the small things. And even if you can't go outside or you can't find these things, there's other ways of creating a sense of beauty. You could close your eyes. Even if you don't have any way to play any music, you can imagine a song in your head and then just dance. And no one's watching. You're not looking at yourself. You're not thinking about whether you're dancing well or not. You're just moving, and there's the sense of beauty that comes from within at just being able to move. Just being able to be part of your environment and be grounded and connected with it, even in the simplest of ways. So whenever you think, oh, I'd love to go out on a nature walk or go hiking or go on an adventure, but I just can't, I'm stuck wherever I am, realize that you're not stuck. So much of the beauty even comes from within the mind. You can reflect on beautiful things wherever you are. You're not in any kind of prison when you have your mind. Especially if you ask God to heal your mind in any ways that it needs to be. And then your mind and your heart can enjoy all of this beauty, even in the simple ways, even when things are not as grand and adventurous and all of those things that you might want them to be in the moment. It can be helpful to think cinematically, because there's so many things in this world we might think of as ugly or imperfect, but whenever they're in a story, whenever they're in cinema, we see these shots, the light, we feel the mood, and even things that are imperfect or sorrowful, all of a sudden are a way of seeing beauty, or a way of seeing meaning. So when you look around, you can think cinematically and see the meaning in all of the different things around you that you might not have noticed before. I'll leave you with these things, and you can think of more things. Just remember that your life is a story, and it's worth writing it by living it, and it'll be worth reading, as long as you stay close to Him.